Cheers everyone and happy Friday. Welcome to another edition of the iRunOnBeer Friday 5. First and foremost, I'm sorry for missing last week. August has been an insane month for me. Every weekend I've got something going on, plus working on a college campus. That means at the end of the month, the fall semester starts, so things are just starting to get crazy at work. So I am sorry I missed last week. I let everything get in front of me. I didn't have the forethought to pre-record some of these ahead of time, so I apologize for that, but I'm back with another week of the Friday 5 and another episode. So for this week's episode, I figured I'd do something pretty quick, partially because of those time constraints that I already talked about, but also this is an idea for a video that I've been wanting to do for a while, so I figured I'd just go ahead and do it. So without further ado, this week's topic is going to be my 5 favorite race distances. I started running cross country in high school, was really like my first introduction to actually competitive running at the 5K distance, and since then have done distances all across the board, so I figured I'd revisit some of my favorite races and go through my favorite distances in order for my top 5. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. So kicking it off with number 1, I've got to go with a race distance that I'm not actually all that familiar with, and actually have only ever run one race of this distance before, and that is the 10K. Back in 2017, I ran my first 10K at the Run Inspired 10K in Winterthur, Delaware. It was actually a lot of fun because that is, Winterthur, Delaware is right by where I grew up, and those same trails are where I ran a lot of my cross-country races in high school. So it was a lot of fun going back there for a race, and a race of a new distance. And what I really enjoy about the 10K is it's longer than the 5K, so it does take a little bit longer of an effort to get through the race, but I love those shorter distance races where you're still training just as hard, just a different kind of training, a lot more speed work and a lot more intensity in your miles. But because the races are shorter, they're not as taxing on the body, you can do more races at that distance. So I'm giving 10K as my number 5 because it's not as high on my list as some of those other shorter distance races that I like. Spoiler alert for some race distances coming up later on in the list, but I did thoroughly enjoy that race, and because that was my first and I had no experience with the distance, I'm definitely excited to give it another go to see what I can really PR at that distance, since I really have no experience with that race. But love the race that I did participate in and can't wait for the next one. Number 2 is actually another race that I have only ever participated in one of, but I feel like once is enough to give you the full experience that you need to really fall in love with a race at this distance, and that is the ultramarathon relay race. So what I mean by that, if you're unfamiliar, is an ultramarathon relay race is basically a long distance race. Most of the ones I've seen are around the 200-mile mark, but where you're dividing those miles up among a large team of participants. So everyone is running multiple legs of shorter distances to make up whatever that overall course is. So back when I was in grad school several years ago, my team and I participated in the Palmetto 200. I was in grad school at University of South Carolina, go Cox. But yeah, the Palmetto 200 was a race that ran from Columbia, where our school was, all the way to Charleston on the coast. So it was a 200-mile course. It was an incredible experience. If you've never participated in one, I can't recommend it enough. Like I said, even though I only ran one, the experience of running a race like that is just so different from any other race. It had to make it into my list, and the only reason I'm not putting it higher on my list is, although it was one of my favorite races I've ever participated in, it's just so hard to put together a team of 12 people who are interested in running something like that for you. It's definitely pretty brutal on the body, but just the camaraderie, the experiences that you all share. Usually how most of them are organized is that you're in a team of 12 split into 2 vans, so 6 and 6. 6 runners are running at one time while the other van is sleeping, and then when they finish their legs, the next van takes over and gives the first van a chance to sleep. So like I said, just a truly unique experience, and I feel like it's a distance that's really taking off as running is really starting to explode as a sport and people are looking for new experiences. I've seen all kinds of awesome ultra relay races popping up. There's a lot that take place between breweries, which is obviously high on my list to participate in, but like I said, sometimes it can be tough just to put together a team of runners who are willing to participate in an event like that. So if you get the chance, I would highly recommend it. Ragnar is an organization that's putting up tons of races of this nature all over the country, and then the Ragnar Trail as well, if you're interested in a similar experience but taking place on trails. Can't recommend enough checking them out. Like I said, haven't participated in one of theirs specifically, but can't wait for the opportunity. I really enjoyed the Palmetto 200 experience that I had. It took our team, I think, just over 36 hours. So if you can imagine participating in a race that takes long, it's brutal, but you love every minute of it. It's so fun. You learn so much just about how you can adapt in that kind of environment, putting that kind of stress on your body, and just the camaraderie you build among your teammates is something that can't be matched in some of those solo races that you might have done. So can't recommend enough checking that out. out if you have the opportunity, and that earns the number 2 spot on my list. Moving into the races that I have a little bit more experience with, we're going to kick it off with number 3, which is the half marathon distance. I think especially lately, that's the race distance that I have the most experience with, and that was really my reintroduction to running once I had participated in those 5Ks in high school cross country, got comfortable with that distance, that short distance racing, then really put running on the back burner in college. Didn't really exercise much, didn't really participate in any kind of physical activity except the occasional fraternity basketball or ultimate frisbee game. But then in my junior and senior year, when I started to get back into running, what really motivated me to push back into training and get into more of a structured regiment was signing up for my first ever half marathon. I learned the hard way that you can't run a half marathon like you can a 5K if you haven't put in the training. I did try to put in the training, but I slacked off a lot. I had never had to deal with any kind of mileage close to at the half marathon distance, had never had to deal with fueling or hydration during a run really because I'd only been running in 5Ks, and so I learned a very valuable lesson on race day when my legs just fell apart very early in the race, and especially in the days after, and just how much pain I was in. But since then, I'd like to think that I've grown a lot. I had my ups and downs. There was definitely a learning curve where I learned to respect the half marathon distance. I started training. I had some incredible accomplishments at the half marathon, and then I was like, oh, this is a comfortable race distance, and started to slack off again and had some really low points in the half marathon as well. But I've run a ton of those since then, and have just really learned to enjoy that race distance. I would say the half marathon distance is the first distance for me that feels like a long distance race. Everything before that, there are definitely longer distance races shorter than a half marathon, but for me the half marathon is kind of the mark where I really need a structured, dedicated training program to make sure that I perform well and perform at my best on race day. So for me, I have really loved continuing to improve my half marathon time. My mom reminds me that her PR is a 1:36, and last year in Philly I ran a 1:38, so I'm getting closer. I have my sights set on some other goals right now, but definitely excited to revisit the half marathon and hopefully shave those last 2 minutes off. I feel like I am at my peak and just continuing to improve and improve and improve, and really just can't wait to see what I can do in that race. So half marathon has definitely earned a special place in my heart, and really can't wait to see how quick I can get my time. Like I said, right now I'm at the 1:38. Can't wait to keep seeing those minutes shave off with whenever the next race I sign up for is. Of course, it wouldn't be fair if we were talking about the half marathon to leave out the marathon, and that earns the number 4 space on my list. If you followed me at all over the last 2 years, you know how much respect I've gained for the marathon distance. Running my first one last year and my second one this year, I just love everything about that race distance. First, the training. It's a lot more difficult and a lot obviously higher mileage than the half marathon, double the mileage that you have to worry about. And for me, just the dedication and perseverance it takes for me to make it through the entire training program and to show up on race day is an accomplishment enough. I remember showing up in Lewis Beach for my first ever marathon and just thinking, as long as I cross the finish line, I'll be happy. I don't care how I run the race. I'm just so happy with my accomplishment so far of making it all the way through that training program. And that has continued to hold true. I love the marathon distance. I'm still very new to it, have so much more to learn. And what really, just the amount of more dedication it takes to get through that training program and to really do well in the marathon is what edges it out over the half marathon distance. It's just a race that I love. I think it's so fun. I think everyone should experience it if you are able, just because, like I said, once you've done it, there's really nothing like it. The half marathon, running my first half marathon was great, but getting through the training and running my first marathon, just doubling that distance was such a cool experience, and really taught me a lot about myself as a person through training, but then also myself as a runner through training and through race day. It is difficult. It tests you in ways that the half marathon certainly does not, but definitely something that I think a lot of runners are able to do if they put their mind to it. So again, earns my number 4 spot. It's a race I love and very new to, and just really can't wait to see how much I can improve in that race distance. Last but not least, I have to give it up for the race distance that really sparked my passion for running. I hinted at it earlier in the video, and that is the 5K distance. Something about that distance, although it may seem short, a lot of people run them as just fun runs, and I certainly have in the past as well, but there's something that just keeps drawing me back, especially recently as I've started to get closer and closer to my high school PR. I am just itching to continue to improve at that distance, and it's a race that I don't get to go back to as often as I probably should or wish I could. Something about the 5K distance, for whatever reason, I think because I'm focused more on long distance, I don't train my body as much for those explosive speeds that you need at the 5K, some of the strength training and the speed work that you do, and I'm worried that if I run too many of them, I might break down some of the muscles that I need for some of those long distance races, but training for those long distance races have really improved my ability to maintain those faster paces during the 5K distance. I can't believe in grad school, when I was just starting to really pick up in the half marathon distance again, I just remember running 5Ks and struggling through them, but being like, okay, I'm running pretty quick. I think I got down to a 7-minute mile in my last year of grad school, which I felt really good about. It wasn't nearly as close to what I was running in high school, but I was seeing those seconds and minutes click off as I was starting to expand the distance that I was running. My speed at those shorter distances was increasing as well. It's advice that I give to people running short distance all the time when they ask, like, what's your #1 tip for gaining speed? I always say, if you can increase your mileage, you'll see that speed just naturally come to you, especially when you're first starting out. So now that I've gotten even closer and even closer, I'm inching towards that 20-minute mark. I would love to break that in the near future, so I'm trying to definitely incorporate some more 5Ks into my race training and race planning for the future, just because it is such a fun distance. You can run so many of them. You don't feel the same wear and tear on your legs and on your body as you do during some of those long distance races. So I feel like it's a more approachable distance, and like I said, it's the race that I started with. It's the race that I'm used to. It gives me that nostalgic feel, but I just love the 5K distance, and especially now that I've gotten a little bit faster, it's certainly nice to be able to get some of those age group placements and things like that in some of those local 5Ks. So definitely looking forward to increasing the number of 5Ks that I'm running in the future, and I think that will probably always stay as my #1 favorite race to run. #5 on my list, but #1 in my heart. Love the 5K and can't wait to run more. I'm hoping maybe in 2020 I'll be able to break that 20-minute mark. It was a dream that I was chasing all through high school. I missed it by 10 seconds, I think, 10 or so seconds in my final race senior year, but then found out that the course that we had run on was actually measured too long, so those distances or those times were thrown out. So in my heart, I'd like to think that I broke the 20-minute mark, but I'm hoping to make it official sometime soon. Like I said, hopefully in 2020 I'll be able to get there, but inching closer and closer, and just love running those 5K distances. It helps break up some of the training of the longer distance races, and like I said, just something fun, more approachable, and there's so many more options for 5Ks in the local area, and something that my wife, friends, family, people who don't run as often can enjoy as well. So looking forward to getting involved in more of those in the future. There you have it. Not necessarily as informative or as much of a deep dive into a running topic as some of my previous videos have been, but like I said, this is a crazy time of year for me, but I didn't want to miss another week of a video, so I wanted to get something out to you all. This was an idea I had a few weeks ago that I thought would be a little bit fun, just to give you an idea of my personal preferences when it comes to running, race distances, what I'm looking for, and some of my favorite race distances to run, and some of also hints at some of the goals that I'm looking to hopefully improve upon or hoping to accomplish in the months, weeks, years to come. So there you go, a little bit of insight into my mind as a runner and some of the things that I enjoy in this sport, but I'd love to hear from you as well. What are your favorite distances? I've really been enjoying a lot of the feedback that I've gotten from you all, some of the comments that I've gotten from people just starting out in running, from people who are much older, maybe doing it for health reasons or just looking for a new sport to take advantage of, as well as younger people who are just starting in cross country. That's also very exciting for me to see, especially as a cross country runner for myself. It's very exciting that I can give back to the next generation, or to those athletes that are coming up into the sport, and also hopefully watch them accomplish their goals that they're shooting for. So anything that I can do for you, any questions, any topics that you'd like to hear from me in the future, please let me know in a private message, in the comments below, Instagram, whatever method that you would prefer. I've been really enjoying this new channel, this new media outlet, trying out YouTube for the first time. I feel like it's been going really well, and I hope you enjoyed this latest episode. So as always, congratulations on making it through another week. It's the weekend. Enjoy your Friday. Hopefully there's a cold beer waiting for you at home if you're of age. I know I mentioned some of those middle school, high school cross country runners that are watching as well, but thanks as always for watching, and enjoy your weekend. Cheers.